flying cars. I've already made 2 of them, and today we're going to make one out of this Porsche. Stick around to see how I do it. Right, the idea is we're going to have a very detailed undercarriage and lots of sci-fi elements, but I want to keep the top sleek and simple to give it that futuristic vibe. And here's the other one I did out of a truck. So let's get into it. Nothing happened. I guess we're going to have to build this one the old-fashioned way. Have to do something with the exhaust. Some nice detail inside of these vents here. The first thing we're going to need is some kind of hover engines. Could use a cap like this. I only have one of these, that's not going to work. I have a lot of these super glue caps. We could use that. I wonder what else I have though. Let's have a look at these bits. An important part of this kind of building is just looking at what you have, what it might turn into. You can see here I'm just going through my bits boxes and collecting what I think might be useful for this build. Some of these pieces make it into the build and some of them don't. So while I'm collecting all these bits, I'd like to talk to you about my friend Andrew. And Andrew has a channel on YouTube called Maple Leaf Customs. And if you're interested in the work I do with diecast cars, I think you'll love Andrew's channel too. He does really cool customs and restorations, makes a custom package for it, and then he donates all of his builds to the Goodwill so that they can give it to a boy or a girl completely free. How cool is that? Andrew really likes Porsches, and I'm actually building this car for him. So Andrew, I'm making this one for you as one you'll get to keep. Keep being awesome. And here's a whole another box full of model bits. Right, I'm going to go through these, see what I have to work with, and I'll pick out the best bits I want to use for now. These parts of the fuselage of this airplane look really cool, and they're the perfect size to go on this car. Here's another really cool thing that I don't end up using, but these pieces from this airplane model fit perfectly onto the front of this Porsche. I love it when things line up like that. It was tempting to use these pieces, but I didn't do it in the end. Sand it down flat, and look at the perfect fit here. My goodness. 2 in a row. I'd grabbed these jet engines from the same model. We're going to need to make a little room here. Look at that fit. These look really cool. I'm happy about this bit. Glue them in place with some super glue. And of course, the baking soda. Just want to make sure it's not going to pop off. Some ABS tubes here. And the 8mm nests very nicely inside of the 10mm. This pipe cutting tool, and that's what I use to cut these down. Stuck an airsoft BB in the middle. It covers the hole and it also gives us a nice little detail when you look inside. Here's the fuselage glued on in a vent from some Hot Wheels model, don't remember. And here is the first use of my jeweler's saw. I was pretty excited to get this. Oh, crap. There's definitely a learning curve. I've broken quite a few blades. But it's so satisfying. Right there, when you cut the last bit, and it just comes right off. All that work for this tiny sliver. That's alright. I wanted to be able to see that texture on the inside. I start the process of gluing on these engines. I want them to cant out as well as being angled back a little. Kind of dynamic position. Super glue and baking soda to hold it on is a must for these. The connection point is very small, so you need to add more surface area. And here's all 4 of them glued on. I did have to file out the back fender a bit.
I'm melting! I'm melting!
Right, all stripped and polished up. Let's add some more bits. Grabbed these wings earlier and I like the way they look in here, so I'll go ahead and glue these on too. With what else? Super glue and baking soda, that's right. I had to shave down the interior a little bit to get those wings to fit inside. And then I thought that I wanted to use some of the last bits from my AT-ST kit. This kit from Bandai has been invaluable for these types of builds. And they found a home on either side of the fuselage there. Now I'm just checking out to see what kind of bits I want to stick on this car. And the faceplate of an AT-ST makes its home on the back. Not sure what this is from. I think it's from a military truck kit. I don't remember, but I drill a hole for a little bit more detail. No function, just to break up that flat surface. It's gonna get glued on right there. Zip tie. I like using zip ties on these builds to make little vents. And I'll add one underneath this other vent here. And it's time for wire. I got 2 wires here. One is aluminum and one is copper, different gauges. And I just start to route these wires as if they're what? Oh my gosh. Magnets. Steel wool sticking to my tweezers. Start gluing some of these wires on to give nice detail. There we go. And why not have a squiggly one over here? That looks good to me. I'll stick that on right there too. And back to the bits boxes. We grabbed a couple of these metal rings. And I'll glue those onto the car. Alright, something else I like to use is this aluminum tape. Mine's very oxidized right now and pitted. I'll fold some of that over. This is the tape that you might find for air ducting. Cut it a bit thinner here, and now what we have is a very flexible strip of metal. And what I'm going to use it for on this car is a way to hold these cables on. Only visually, of course, they're already super glued. But I like the little extra feature this adds. We're sticking those wires down. Oh, right. So for the copper, I thought it was a bit too thin, and I wanted to make it look more interesting. So I twisted it together, and what I did was I chucked it up into my pin vise, like so. Close that there. And I held the other end with a pair of pliers. And then what I did was I just twisted and twisted and twisted until there was a nice uniform shape. I have some of these beads that are hollow in the middle, basically metal tubes, but very soft metal. And I'll drill some holes and put those in at an angle. These tubes are going to help us route those wires. There we go. Looking good. I'll add another little bit on here from a snow speeder. Those Bandai kits come in handy. I made some kind of heat sink, who knows what thing on here. I don't know, it looks good. And I added another bit. So, I want to add some lights on the bottom, and to have those be round, little half circles, I'm going to use these rhinestone stickers. This is where we're at for the undercarriage detail, and it's all primed up. Ah, don't you just love it when it all comes together? Here's the interior. I added some rings there, and I primed the back windows. They're going to become metal panels. Alright, I want to paint this Porsche a cream color, so I'm going to mix yellow ochre with some white. Mix that up for a cream. If you're counting at home, that was 3 parts white to 1 part yellow ochre, and that will do just fine. Alrighty. Looks good. Let's get on this painting. So, rather than talking about painting, I'm going to talk about a couple different ways you can support the channel. So the easiest way is just to watch these videos and to interact in the comments below. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, any suggestions of things I could do in the future, subscribing, liking, commenting. Those are the easiest ways that you can help out. Another way is if you look in the video description, I'll have some Amazon links to products that I use and other useful tools and materials that you might need to do this kind of project. And these are Amazon affiliate links, so by clicking on these links, a very small portion of your purchase will go to me. It doesn't cost you any extra, but it helps me buy some hobby supplies. Another way you can help out is by donating through PayPal. There's a link on my page. I really appreciate your feedback and support. Right, now that that's out of the way, we'll get back into the build. This next thing I'm going to do, and this is actually the reason why I only buy light gray primer now, I tend to use black wash to paint over the primer. And the reason I like this is because you can build up shades darker and darker and darker. I mean, you can probably keep going all the way to almost black if you really wanted to. Put some black on the interior, also on those inside of those jet engines on the back. Alright, next I mixed up some purple, and I painted those seats purple. I like to have a little splash of color. You actually can't really see them in the finished car, unless you're holding it in your hand and peeking into the window. The other 2 flying cars that I showed at the beginning of this video don't have really any weathering. I did a very sparing pin wash on the panel lines, but on this casting I went for it, and once I start I can't stop. Okay, here we are all weathered up. I'm not 100% pleased with the way the front hood came out, but I think overall it's a minor detail that can be overlooked. Starting to look nice. Alright, let's add some color on there. I have this smoky green, and this is the color that I use for all of my futuristic engines and the glow coming out of electronics. So I'll start by painting up those airsoft BBs, the inside of the engines, and then I'll start working around places that look like they should be glowing. And I added the dry brushing of that same glow onto the car itself. Here are our parts. I did the undercarriage colors off camera. It was just a bit too small. I needed to put my face right over the car. And here is the finished piece. I'm really happy with how this came together, especially that rear end with those rocket or jet engines coming out the back. And you can see I'm using one of my brand new street tiles. There'll be a link to that video in the description as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next build. Hey, did you make it all the way to the end of the video? Great! I have a favor to ask of you. Go watch all my other videos. You can see one here. There's a playlist. Or go to my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, that's a good idea too. Bye!